All right, Mike Hackett here, Joe Militello on the Form First podcast. And we get a lot of grief from people always using our hands for hand gestures, but I don't think we're going to have a problem with that because of today's workout.
Yeah.
So
they're not moving too much.
Today's workout, we had 120 benched, I think it was, and then followed by, we had a gator before that, and then we had, 10 plate shake?
Plate shake.
Which, if you're not familiar with Syphus training, you're taking your 45, 35, or 45-pound plate, walking the field, and doing at least 9 reps there, 9 reps back. So I had to take breaks when I was in between 2 and 3, between most of them. And then you got the VIP or whatever else it was, where we were doing Cujo. And it felt like my shoulders were numb.
Right here is just,
And
it seemed like there was never a break on right here today.
Yes. Like, seriously, like, when I'm, like, holding this, I'm like, I can feel it.
Yeah.
So.
I said that to Emily when we were working out today. I was holding my water. I'm like, this is heavy right now.
Right.
It was ridiculous.
And I was shaking, and then I got to work out at Harrison Township today, which.
Oh, cool.
I think in one of our last podcasts, you mentioned something like how I was being called out by the Sterling Heights firefighters. So got to work out with a few of them, and
cool.
It was really good energy, and I think we had like 12 people going.
Oh, nice.
So it was sweet.
Nice.
But it was one of those things where I had my playlist going today too, and I think everybody was, I don't know, it was focused. I had tunnel vision, and it was a good time. So.
Nice.
And the cool thing I was talking to Kathy before this podcast, was they've got like 2 pages full of people going for March Mayhem, which is pretty sweet
awesome.
to see.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
Hopefully we'll be able to pronounce some of the names when we're
yeah, I know.
I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, it's going to be a train wreck. If we have a full 64 team field, there's no way I'm going to know these names.
We'll try. Saying them all. What we should do is get people to like submit like the pronunciation with it. Like what it sounds like.
Like the dictionary phonics underneath for us.
Because last year we did, Tim and I did it right before the stair climb.
Yeah.
And we were like doing it in the Panera, right down at the Ren Center. We're like trying to like pull it out, read it really quick, pull it out. But anyways, next for this year, the March Mayhem, we're actually going to do like a selection podcast where we're going to pull names randomly out of a hat and seed you in your bracket, so you can tune in here to see who you're going up against in the first part of the first round, and then kind of like which division you'll be in the rest of the way. We'll post that here as well. But we had a lot of questions. Today before our podcast, I said if you have any questions or topics that you want us to go over, and I think we're going to have a lot of things to cover. But one of them was regarding our Mach V. Actually, it's short for Machiavelli, and the reason why it's really named that is because the person who gave me the idea for the circuit, his name is Joe Michelotti, and I don't know why, but I thought of Machiavelli.
I thought it was from Tupac.
No, it's not that. But, I don't know the background of Tupac's songs and the lyric, but really there's another reason why I call it Machiavelli, is because if you research kind of like the whole idea behind Machiavelli and his philosophy, is that people kind of have different personalities based on, I guess, their perception. Like they have like the imposter personality, that type of thing. And so we discussed this before, like in this workout, what it does is flips people's character or personality within the workout. So the person who's usually the leader is now back of the pack and has to work their way up to the front. And that's the other reason why I called it Machiavelli, because it sounded like Joe's name, and it also kind of pertains to the actual character of the workout. But yeah, let's talk about that.
So last week it was written up, and I think we kind of mentioned it, maybe even on here or on the side, and it was on a Thursday, I believe, and I usually don't work out on Thursdays, and I made a point to get here because I wanted to do it, because I was intrigued by the format, and there was a class I wanted to go to, but it just wouldn't fit into my schedule, but I thought it would have been the perfect class in terms of where people would have been, you know what I mean, like the stagger.
Well, we went together, didn't we? I think.
Yeah. I'm not saying the class I was in was
No.
bad.
No.
It was
I
a class I wanted to go to, just because it would have flipped scripts for people that we go all the time.
That makes sense.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was awesome, and for the people we were with, it absolutely did what you set it out to do.
Right.
The people not moving up, it was a totally different workout for them, and the people that got the burst or the get out of jail free card, or whatever you want to call it.
Or
I'm trying to think of something funny.
No,
I can't
it's not the handicap, but it's like, well, I was explaining it to Meredith. It's kind of like waves in a race.
Sure.
But like halfway through the race, you get to advance further.
Right. I was always talking. I was always talking about that game show that was on Nickelodeon where it's the same thing. You would earn time, and then you'd get to go out 35 seconds before you.
Right.
So I'd have a 35-second start. It's pretty much the same thing,
Yeah.
just within our world.
You mentioned it in one of our last podcasts. I don't remember the name
I
of
think
it.
I can't think of it, but it's like Green Mountain. I don't know.
The aggro crag. That
Yes,
thing? Yeah.
yeah.
Not would you rather? Not is it guts?
It might be Guts.
It might be guts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I
Anyway.
remember that the aggro crag. That's weird because they did go up a mountain,
Yeah,
and like the
yeah.
fake boulders
Yep,
falling down and
yep.
stuff like that. That's funny. But no, I mean we can discuss people. I think specifically in this one because I went with Bill and Susie was in the class as well, wasn't it? And he even said like as soon as we jumped ahead that many exercises, he's like that messed up with my head.
Yeah.
And I kind of came back with him like we were kind of rehashing the workout afterwards. I'm like, well, that's how I feel when you go past me right away.
Right,
You know?
right.
So it flips the script a little bit. But it also motivated me because now I went from being, even with everybody and then ahead, and then there were people jumping ahead of me. And so I had this, I'm trying to nip at the heels of the people who are scoring lower than I usually do, which is cool. And then I also know that I got Bill and Susie right behind me,
Yeah.
flying. And Emily was going faster than anybody that day, too.
It totally changes your mindset on everything you're gonna do. When you're gonna take a break, when you're gonna go hard, and you're looking around because you're
Yeah.
gonna see like, is he really gonna catch me after all this, or that's how, not that that's how other people feel, but that's gotta be playing in other people's minds if they're in that position
Right.
daily.
I think it's a workout that we'll do more often. I mean, it's a lot harder for me to come up with like, where are these little weights that
Yeah.
we're going to insert? Last time we did it, we actually had like, okay, if you're a 544, you're going to go to this task. If you're a 560, that's way too hard.
Yeah.
But this one,
Yeah, I mean, I think the thought with the 50 boulder range is good.
Yeah.
I just don't know if.
I could have gone another 50 down
Yeah.
or up. Not like further away. Like didn't give myself the extra 5 tasks.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
I'm saying just in general, I don't know if. I don't know. It seemed off in some spots in terms of catchability.
Yeah. But I think the guys, like, I'm thinking of Bill again. Like, Bill was still able to finish ahead of everybody, which is,
Yeah.
it's astounding. I mean, it's crazy to me. But I think that he's one of those people that when he smells blood, he's able to kind of advance. But I forgot I was saying we're going to do this more often. But I like the fact that it feels like a race. It's the only time where I feel like Syphus it's all right to be a race because everyone can kind of finish together.
Yeah.
And that's what's really cool.
And you're like when you're with people that are going to be skipping your next 8 tasks or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I got to get through these 24 faster than them, or I have no chance.
Right.
So that there's no conserving your energy early, unless you. Sometimes you can see an area where you're like, maybe that could slow somebody down. But when they're 9 tasks ahead of you,
Yeah.
how slow they get it.
Well, that's what it was. Like it was nice to skip some of them. Like I was able to skip like not Diablo. I think it was like whatever
You
it was.
skipped a lot.
Yeah, it was Diablo, Diablo and Cyclone and like Toro. I'm like I'm all right with not doing that. But but at the same time, you had those people that were ahead of you that skipped a couple of the exercises. Like man,
Well, another thing too, I think it was what was it? It was like Scorpion. When I saw people getting a Scorpion, I'm like, I'm not even close. Like,
Right.
there's no way I'm gonna make up that big chunk after they were done.
That puts it into perspective too, because you're thinking, oh my gosh, well, you got those people at Scorpion, but you got to think of I've got to do all these exercises before, and then I got to do
That's
Scorpion.
what I'm saying. Yeah, there's no way.
But that puts it hopefully into perspective for people who passed all those exercises. to show like this is what like maybe someone scoring 1,000 always has to do to get through it. Just to
True.
It puts more.
If
like,
you go back and look at what you didn't do.
Yes, but
Yeah.
I felt like I did while I was doing it. I was like, man,
Yeah.
you're more thankful that you didn't have to go
Right.
back and do all that. But and like you said a second ago, it's probably the only time where I'm really looking around. Okay, where's this person at? Because that's more the element of that workout.
Yeah, and it would change whether you would keep going or stop and take a break. Like, well, I'll keep going now. Whereas
Right.
if that wasn't going on, you easily could have stopped,
Yeah.
did a little walk, catch your breath, a little break, but instead you don't.
Well, you not to interrupt, but you kind of screwed yourself the day before, right? The workout. Didn't you end up scoring higher, so you boosted your 30-day?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I was at 850. I was at 850 or 849, which was
I think it was 849.
Yeah,
And you went
but
up.
either one, I was still
Okay.
in the lower one, and then I went up 2 points from the day before, so I went up to the
Yeah.
top one, and it totally,
Yeah.
and then I had Emily next to me skipping 8 tasks, and I was
Right.
skipping 4. I'm like, come on.
And you guys are in
Yeah.
mayhem together, and you
Yeah.
guys are going together. And it's funny, too, because that 5 extra exercises, I really don't
I had
recall
no
where
chance.
you were.
I had no chance.
But I knew she was right there,
Yeah.
and then just
Yeah, to see it.
flew right by.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's funny how that can come back to haunt you. Like, I don't know if it was because you scored higher the day before, or if it was... you
Yeah, because
dropped
it wasn't like it had to have been a dropped one, because it's not like I scored that high the day before, so it must have just
Right.
dropped a low one and then jammed me up.
That's I mean, that's
Whatever.
cool, though, that you stick with it, and you're not like, yeah, I scored higher, so I'm gonna do what the workout asks.
But definitely good, and everyone that I talked to that did it liked it. So.
Yeah, so we'll definitely do it more often. I actually, what's his name? Todd from Brownstown asked me to throw in a body weight workout. He's already asking for something in like April 1st. I'm like, yeah, I'll get to it. I gotta put it on my calendar, but we'll do it. He wants a body weight one because they're gonna clean up the turf, and he doesn't want it to be too sticky. So
Oh, that's a good idea.
yeah, it's a good idea. So we had a
No,
couple.
I meant a body weight workout. with
No,
the
no, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. And I try to do that too, but it would be kind of nice to have all the locations have that notice, and they,
Yeah.
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 One of the questions we had from Sam from Shelby was when you should or shouldn't go down on weight. I've done various posts on like how to determine if you're ready or not to go up in weights or down. Do you have any input or thoughts on
Well, I mean,
that?
I have you. I think you talk about being able to do a bully, right?
Yes, yeah, I think that's like the gauge.
Yeah.
If you can't do it with the 55 or whatever the higher weight is, don't even deal with it. I would say don't do it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's at the end of the day, it's totally up to the person. There shouldn't be any like shaming or pressure put on people to
Right.
move up or down or whatever. Down's different, but I'd say up more.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that wasn't that wasn't what happened.
Really?
Wasn't what not. Oh, for sure. I was definitely shamed into moving up. Which
Did I shame you?
no,
Okay.
no. It was my people. It was fine.
Okay,
It was,
okay.
it was people like friends, but
Yeah.
it helped though because in my head I just didn't think I could do it.
Yeah.
And being told just do it and it'll be fine. And then because I started with 25 and then I
Did
did
you really?
yeah and I used. That was the jump. Just switching to the
Yeah.
35.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd be able to do
I can't even see you using a 25.
cyclone or
Yeah. Huh.
bench,
Yeah.
and then going from 35 to 45, I really didn't think I would be able to. I don't feel strong of upper body.
Right.
And
You wouldn't have gotten there, I guess, if you wouldn't have gone up.
sure, yeah, exactly. And so when I did do it, it was a really upper body heavy workout, and it wasn't too bad, and I felt awesome after being done. And then
Yeah.
ever since then, I never went back. But I see other people questioning whether they should switch or not to go up, and I just think if you're constantly finishing and not feeling like pushed,
Yeah.
then I think that's a real good indicator to.
Well, I don't
to
know.
move up.
I don't pay attention to the stats enough to know if someone's finishing a lot and they're holding back, like,
Sure.
like, I don't know how many males that are using 35s that are finishing that could use the 45. I don't know.
I don't even think you could.
Yeah.
You could determine that by the numbers though either.
That's,
You know?
you'd have to be looking
You'd
at
have to
each
see-
person's,
yeah. You have to see
Yeah.
them physically.
oh, yes, to discern whether or not
Yeah.
they should be able to go up or down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I'd say this, if you are questioning it,
Yeah.
then do it.
Yeah. Yes and no. I just don't want someone jumping up to the 55 because
Well,
that's a different story.
That's a whole
Yeah.
another world. That's
So, like, really quickly, when we bring you into initiation, if it's your first time doing Syphus, generally the rule of thumb is women are going to use the 25 to start off with. Men usually use the 35, and we figure out whether or not you're capable of using the 45. At least that's how I
I mean,
do
you
it.
put the thing over your
Yeah.
head.
Right.
You don't know what's going on. It's just a safety thing
It
at
is.
first.
Yeah.
I think.
Right. And then you can tell, I mean, I don't know how it was with
Yeah.
you, but I can, like, this guy can handle a 45,
For sure,
no
for
problem. And then Sam elaborated on his question a little bit, which was helpful. He wants to know maybe how you would transition into using a heavier weight. I have a thought that some of the ground stuff is going to be harder to use if you have a smaller plate.
Sure.
So I think of like meals wheels. If I'm using a 35, that's going to be harder to probably push it because you're putting your foot on like a smaller surface area, creating more drag. And it's also harder to steer, if you will,
Yeah.
because there's less stability.
We'll notice it more when we'll demo stuff.
Totally.
With people's 25 out here.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, I can buck the 25 car
Go hike, yeah.
but there's nowhere for my feet on the thing, you know.
Right.
And so that alone, that extra area on the 45 is huge for that.
Yeah.
What was his
Well,
second thing?
I could read it actually. He wanted to know. It was buried in my reply, so I won't be able to read that. But he had asked pretty much like how you could transition. And I think that you need to scope out the workout first. If it's going to be all upper body, unfortunately, like you ran into, I would say like that's not the good day to go up in weight.
Yeah, that happens like when, sometimes we'll just use a 55 on certain days or whatever.
Yeah.
There was remember that Sunday where we used to plate like 2 times?
Yeah.
Nate wanted to work out the 55 that day. I'm like,
Right.
don't even bother. It's, like that's definitely not the workout to do. And
Because
that's,
you could say that and chalk it up to like high score on a 55 day.
I mean, that's an
Yeah.
obvious example, but
Yeah.
like today, I don't think would be a great day
Today would have been brutal.
to
Today would have been-
switch because then it's going to mess in your head too.
You're going to think it's that heavy, but it's not that heavy.
It won't be that bad.
So you need a good mixture of up tasks,
How about
carrying, and
like a slope range?
a slope range. Today gave me a different feel. So today's slope was middle of the road, right?
Yes.
Middle of the
720
road. But it was strength based, but they were lower scoring strength ones. Plate shakes are not worth much.
Sure.
But when you're doing 10 of them, it feels like it's heavy as heck. So that slope thing, it's not terribly accurate when it comes to strength versus cardio because some strength exercises are not valued as much.
Right.
And that brings me to one of the questions that Keith asks, but I'll get to that in a second because that's a really important point. But I forgot what I was saying about,
Check the workout.
check the workout. But the other thing is for me, I got to listen to my body. I tried using the 55 for like a month. My shoulders were killing me. My joints were killing me. I'm like, this is too heavy for me. I can handle it for a little bit, but a cyclone gives me enough of a challenge just on a 45. Why do I need to go up?
When I did it like 2 or 3 months last year.
Yeah.
And I was only doing it because I was thinking when I went back to 45 that I would be able to things wouldn't be easier, but I'd be able to get through them differently.
Well, like a halo, like you're like, oh, that's not like I'm able to do the full one instead of like
Something like
resting a
that.
little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. Or even 2 benched in a row.
Right.
In my head, if I'm doing 4 benched with a 55, I
Yes.
absolutely should be able to do 4
Yeah.
benched with a 45. But at some point, that's just not going to work.
No.
Because there's so many other factors going into that.
This is where I feel like the analogy an analogy that would work for this situation is like when I played baseball, and anybody who's played higher level baseball, there's something called a donut, a weight on the bat.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to know that, but you put the weight on your bat before you go up to hit.
Well, it's literally a weighted
Yes.
donut that goes down the bat.
Yes.
It looks like a donut.
And then when you're on the on-deck circle, you swing that because
What
you
if someone doesn't know what an on-deck circle is?
Okay, we don't need to explain everything.
Oh.
As you're about to go to the plate, you kind of take a few practice swings with that. You knock the donut off, and then you go up there, and it's, 15 ounces, 5 ounces, whatever it
And
is.
the bat weighs, it feels like a pencil.
It feels like a twig. And so I can see that playing to your advantage if you did like a 55 and then 45, 55, like alternate on and off.
True. Yeah.
So your perception is like, oh, this is light today. But I think if you go 55 all the time and then you go 45 for a long stretch, it's maybe the first couple of days is going to be beneficial.
I'll tell you right now, it wasn't. I mean,
It wasn't? No.
There was no change.
Okay. And the thing of it is, too, with a 55, you got 2 5-pound discs in
Yeah,
there,
and
it's off-center.
Yeah, if anything, it cost me more time because I'd always have to turn it if I was doing
Right.
something with one leg
Yeah.
or trying to pull it. You can't pull it on 3/4 of the damn plate.
Right. I think when it boils down to is you kind of need to know what your goals are too. If you're trying to maybe put on a little muscle mass up top or something, then sure, go up and weight as long as you can handle it. If you can't handle it, it's not worth risking maybe injury.
I still say though, if the thought's in your head and you haven't been struggling with what you're doing,
Yeah.
just you gotta just do it. You can't keep making excuses or finding a reason not to do it.
Right.
Do it, see how it is, and then go from there. And then once you do it once and you did it, it's over. You're fine.
And I think you and I both are adding different perspectives because like you're thinking of like going down to going up. I'm thinking like if you're already up to go down. Like if
Is that what he's asking though?
I'm not positive, but I think he may be using a 35 and he's thinking about going up. So you're giving him his perspective where I'm thinking, all right, if you're using a 55 and maybe your form is suffering.
I don't think anybody's
There's not many people that are that.
not like all the time. I think it's more, and I think that's what it should be. It's like a supplement
Yes.
every once in a while, which is it's
Yeah.
fun. It's a fun challenge.
It's like having a body weight workout every now
yeah,
and then.
yeah.
It is a fun challenge. I used it a couple months ago, and then I'm like, I'm not going to do it for a few more months.
right.
All right. So Keith's question, and this is a pretty multi-layered question, so it was good. But we were talking about tasks, and I was saying like a plate shake is not valued as high as some strength exercises. And so his big thing was how do I value tasks essentially? And I just want to read it because he said he wants to know what goes into changing a task, deleting a task altogether, or when I modify a task permanently, do I change points for it? Do I take in consideration a person's body type that's actually doing the exercises or pointing out issues with it? And whether or not their tenure at Syphus has an effect on whether or not we modify something, their boulder level, and then do I leave a task alone and then pretty much switch things up if I find it's necessary?
Just reading that was the I you or him?
Let me read this verbatim. Okay. Keith Millard, tasks, and what goes into changing a task, deleting it altogether, or when you modify, you, Mike Hackett, modify a task permanently, would it change points for it? Do you take into consideration the shape of a person who is pointing out the issues, their time at Syphus, boulder level, or do you leave it alone unless you, I think me, yourself feel the need?
Because when you were reading it, you changed the problem.
I was trying to like translate.
Then I'm like, well, wait a minute. So it's like he's asking it. All right. Well, I mean, the first part is simple to answer, right?
What goes into changing a task?
I mean, the modification versus points. We have the index now where it's the same. I mean, if we're using that, then no, they're not different.
Yeah, that's pretty true. There's
but for all.
I think it's helpful to, I guess, explain how I value an exercise first and then kind of go from there. So let's say we got a new exercise, which I think we have a couple coming up. Oh, today was a good example. Craze. So what I will think about initially, like the very first time we're going to feature it, I pretty much think about how long it takes you to do it. Then something I call perceived exertion. It's actually residual fatigue is what it comes out to being. And then really it's just those two things, but I also compare it to other exercises. back in the day when I was first coming up with this, it was like I would have a stopwatch out and like time people doing it. I would give them a survey, have them fill out how they felt these exercises were in comparison to each other. But now I'm so far past that, and we've developed this so greatly that I can say, like, I have certain benchmarks. So for instance, Diablo, Inchworm, and Boulder, those are kind of like a certain tier of exercises. I'm like, is it easier or harder than that?
Oh, okay.
So if it's
The
easier,
Mendoza line, if you will.
exactly, it's kind of like that. Mendoza line. Do we need to explain that? No. So is it higher or lower than that? Okay, it's lower than that. Okay, is it easier or harder than gargoyle or bovine? So I kind of have these like sections built in my mind, and then they get incrementally, like you can narrow in on how hard it is. So, but I'm pretty good at the point where I'm like, we're just going to plug it in this value first, see how it goes. Then after about a month, sometimes maybe 2, you see how long it takes people to do it, what their, discussion, what their opinion is on it. And then I will either inflate the score or deflate the score, based on 3 factors. One is the residual fatigue. So today would be a good example of that. Plate shake, that tears you up if you do enough of them. And it's going to make the exercises that you do later a lot harder. So that would give it more points. But then there's something called cheatability, which I know we don't like to talk about cheating. Is it an exercise that there's a lot of ways of interpretation? And if there's a ton of ways to interpret an exercise, that devalues the score. And then time is always like a staple. It's like, okay, revival, that's going to take anyone a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, not like a real long time. The more proficient you are at it, you're going to be quicker. But
It's not. Yeah, it's long.
right, it's going to take
one
you
of the
probably
longer,
at least a minute.
Yeah, it's one of the longer ones to do.
So those are like the 3 main staples. Like there's times where I remember having Frankie back when he worked, when he was here. We would spend a couple hours like just going over. Okay, does this get boosted points? Does it get detracted points? That kind of thing. Going through each and every single exercise, which is fun to me. And I was telling Kathy, I know I'm kind of rambling on here. Kathy, after March Mayhem this year, I'm going to make it an annual thing where we're just going to do the revamp of scores just one time a year instead of me kind of going. I'll do
Just
like
tweaking here
and there. Just do it so that way it's like a clean slate. After March Mayhem, get some feedback from some of the pros, what should be raised or lowered, and then so that we know, okay, after the March Mayhem, it's not going to affect any of those scores, and we're just going to change the dial.
Well, a good task that we've talked about recently, in terms of the cameras off, I think.
The camera's off, but you can keep going.
Well, I need that. I don't know what the task is. What's the?
Mugger Jagger.
No. Griffin and.
Oh, Grifter.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been talking about in terms of modifying a task after it's been out or points or whatever.
Yeah.
We talked about Griffin and Grifter, how Griffin is perceived as the easier of the 2 tasks.
Yeah.
But it's only 8 reps, whereas Grifter is 10 reps
Yes.
and harder.
So something like that, that's just a blatant mistake on my end, like doing the reps. Usually I try to make them kind of uniform, and on that point in starting February, this coming month.
So 2 days.
2 days, or one day,
day.
depending on when you're watching. Jagger and Mugger will be 12 reps moving forward to keep it consistent with Rampage, because I think just adding one more rep each leg is good, but I just want to kind of keep it consistent. Hopefully that doesn't confuse
I have a
people.
feeling in the next couple of months, craze will be changing too.
To like 10?
12? I mean, 15 max, I would say.
Yeah. Or I have to give it more value.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
know.
I think it falls into 2 categories that you would think of. I think it's not quick, and it's doing it right. You'll feel
it
it.
burns.
Yeah.
It really, really does.
20 is a lot, or 40.
Well, so I also think bench 30 is a lot, but I like the 30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a lot.
But I try to group the reps with like exercises. So you got your kitchen sink, RDL's that's not a good example. I was thinking kitchen sink and stationary weighted squat.
Okay.
So, but anyways, Grifter versus Griffin. Grifter's definitely harder.
Yeah.
Even if you're doing 8, it's still harder than Griffin.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And something with Griffin that I notice is some people drop their back foot that's going like opposite elbow, opposite knee. That foot should stay up in the
Still
air.
be covered, yeah.
Yeah, which is going to make it harder, but still not harder than grifter, because the grifter, your back foot's still going to be up, and you're tightening up, like you're in the plank position on your elbow, and just trying to get your knee to your elbow makes it so much harder. Talk about a core exercise from our last podcast. I mean, that's a killer core exercise. And you're doing a single arm plate push on top of it.
Right. Right, exactly.
Valuation of tasks and how we come up with the values. But he wanted to know if what goes into changing a task. We kind of covered that a little bit. Really, if we realize that the task is not similar in reps, we want to kind of keep those pretty consistent. And then he wanted to know if we delete it altogether, why we delete it. That's the easy answer is if the form is not safe and people are messing up the form for like not doing the exercises correctly. Like dead man is one that we just
Yeah, I think it's Thursday this week, right?
Right. I mean, actually, I'm going to demonstrate it because it's the only way I can effectively explain it. Dead man is what frozen pipes is now, but kind of. What dead man used to be is you hold the weight like this, and you just do a squat like that, which I like. It's like doing a front squat with a bar where you're holding it here and you're just going up and down. But we had Stephanie, who used to work here, was doing that one time, and her back gave out. It's because you got so much weight front loaded, and it takes someone who's really aware of their body to do that, especially when they're fatigued. We just don't want to run into that where someone's going to like throw out their back doing something that takes a lot of, awareness of your body. So usually if I scrap an exercise, it's because few people are able to do it exactly correctly, and why even deal with the hassle of trying to do something like that. And then another thing he asked was when we modify a task permanently, would it change the points for it? And I don't really know if he means
like individually, or
I think maybe he's saying if we modify like grifter to griffin, that's what I'm guessing. Grifter to griffin, are we going to change the points? No, we'll probably keep the points the same. And
that would be the reason for the change,
right?
That's to make it either harder to be equal to the points, or easier to the lower points.
Or like we said with craze, like we could either change the reps, or I could just increase the value. So, and I can do that on the back end, and I mean, for the most part, if it's just one task, you're probably not going to see a very big difference in the scores.
Sure.
And it does automatically. I think you may have asked this. If I were to go in and change like one task value that we do very frequently, and like
Tyson's.
if I see that's the cheatability factor though.
I know.
No, but that exercise is relatively easy. But if you do a lot of them and you're doing them the right way, it's tiring.
Yeah.
Just like scuffle or squibble or any of those.
There was almost a knockout on Sunday because there was such a phenomenal hip turn.
Oh yeah, how'd that happen?
No, it was just a great hip turn, and people were a little too close to each other. It was almost a TKO because they were
at least they were
doing the task so good.
That's good.
Yeah.
What is it you don't like about that?
It's
not that you don't like it, but you give me crap about it.
I don't know. It annoys me. It's just I don't know. It just annoys me.
What's worse, that skips or stampede?
Skips means nothing to me. Stampede, I love.
I love stampede too.
Yeah, I don't care.
But so I don't even know why we got up on that. But it's I don't even know. So Keith, you asked me a question too about do I take into consideration the shape of a person? I'm guessing you're saying like their fitness level. Yes, I do. I take into consideration. Okay, how is this going to be for the new person? Is it going to be difficult for them? And then I also think of, okay, once someone perfects this movement and is, I guess, someone who's been experienced long enough, how easy is this going to be for them down the road? Inchworm's a good idea of that. Inchworm is something when you first start it, it's really hard. But once you get going and you've been doing this a long time, it's not that difficult. That's why it's one of my staple tasks. So I guess we keep certain tasks like static with a it's not going to change much because they're kind of like our pillars or our cornerstones, which those are not really ones that I use very frequently. But we kind of base ours on things that you're not going to be able to shave time on it eventually. There's a certain like ceiling that you're going to get to, and you can't really shave on it. John, I think it's pronounced Farah, right? I don't know if you know that. Yeah, sorry.
I'm not, I don't know.
I worked out with him today at Harrison. Great guy. But he wanted to know, he's doing initiation. He just did it again recently on his like 1 year anniversary. And that it was a cool idea to kind of bring back initiation to see how you did, or see like a benchmark to see how you've improved. And that's not really, I guess, feasible for all the people that do Syphus training. We can't say like, all right, we don't know when people start, but I guess we could say, hey, if you want to do initiation to see, your 1 year anniversary, see how much you've improved. I think that would be kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, it's changed though too.
So, well, yeah, that's true. It changed. So when he asked me like, okay, I want to see what my improvements been over the year. Should I do the old initiation or the new initiation? I'm like, if you really want to match apples to apples, do the old one.
Yeah.
So I think he did that. I really don't know what he scored, but I guess if you're wondering kind of like the numbers on initiation, the first timer, it used to be a 308 was like the average first time. Now it's a 295. So the average first time score is going to be a 295. So you can kind of compare how you do your first time to how other people do. And then last time I checked, which is probably about a year ago, less than 6% of the people are able to finish the first initiation, which was Mountain, Reptilian, Chaos, or Centaur 2, and then Mountain 2.
Yes.
I don't mean like just the top row, if that's how you guys write it at your turf. But that's very few and far between, which means you're scoring 500 or higher, which if you're scoring that high that early, I mean, you're in like serious shape.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and there's very few people that can do that because you also have to like retain all this information that someone just gave you. So if you're able to complete all the exercises, not take any rest, and learn it that quickly, you're far ahead of the game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, being able to remember some of the stuff is going to boost your score too, which is
Totally.
It's
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, because you see that immediate, like they learn, like they first come in, do initiation, then they go up because they learn a little bit, and then they plateau, and then they get in shape, and then they plateau. That's really how it goes. And then you got someone like me who's up and down. So, and then there's a few other questions on here that I think we can get to at another time. Like someone asked, like, what is the future of Syphus? I think we could dedicate an entire segment to like, what's the future? I mean, there's incremental goals. You got short-term and long-term, and then like pipe dreams, but that's neither here nor there. But we got a workout coming up that I wanted to talk about. I forgot what it was. We got March Mayhem tomorrow. It would be tomorrow for people that are tuning in. And it's a practice trial run. So if you want to know what March Mayhem is all about, I encourage you to do the workout tomorrow and do it with a partner that you may be going with, or you're kind of like vetting them, see if they're able to hang with you. And just kind of approach it as if you were doing March Mayhem. Follow the rules that we do for the actual tournament. And if you don't know what that is, ask the pro to kind of help you along. And I think it's a really good way to do it.
It'll be fun, yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to do it with Emily?
I'm going to try, yeah.
You're going to try. So I'm going to do it with Kathy because my partner's, I think, out of town or something like that. But it's just a good way to kind of ready you and know what you're in for and know how important it is to kind of get somebody at your level.
Right. Especially if you haven't done it, you'll see how picking and choosing and waiting and not waiting and
right. And
see how that goes.
This one, I mean, you guys will plan a little bit more, but if I'm going with someone like Kathy, we'll probably just make it up on the spot, which it's fine, but it's you when you're actually doing it in March Mayhem, you do need a little bit more time to plan and that kind of stuff. But you've said it before, it all kind of goes out the window when it's game time.
Like 10 in, you're like,
yeah.
Just try and get one more baseball reference in before.
One more baseball reference.
Like, do you say RBI or RBIs?
RBI. But if it'd be like I got 3 ribbies today.
Yeah, that's annoying. But how many did you get?
I'd say RBI.
Yeah.
Yeah, runs batted in.
Right.
Yeah.
It really should be
Yeah.
R's BI if you want to add an S.
Right.
Bothers me.
See, I think about that all the time with Syphus. I'm like, well, because there's a lot more metrics and statistics that like I think of that like I have like, okay, I have all these equations and I want to display them to people, but like, what do you call them? Because like whip, like, walks, hits per innings pitched. Like, what other stats could we do with Syphus, and like, what would they be called? But this is getting off topic totally. So we got a workout coming up in February, and it's called multitasking. And we had somebody working out here. One day she was going down the field texting, and I said, that doesn't look like a task. And she says, well, I'm multitasking. So I'm like, oh, that's a good idea for a workout. Like what else could you do simultaneously while doing Syphus training? And I know I'm going to get, some people are just going to hate this idea, but we're going to test it out. It's a checklist, but you have a very basic math equation after the task. So the very first exercise, it's like, what's 4 times 3?
Okay.
You find 12 in the checklist of like 20 exercises. Wherever the 12 is, you finish that task, and there's another like basic math.
So it's like choose your own adventure?
It's kind of like that, but there's only really one way to do it. And if you don't want to do it, or it like bothers you mathematically, you don't have to do it. You could just do it as a checklist. And it's the first 20 exercises. But if you actually do the math and try to like figure it out, it's really basic, I swear. If you actually do it, you get awarded 3 extra bonus tasks at the end. So
Can you use a calculator?
if you want to, but that would take forever. Like what I'm telling you, it's like simple. It's like what's 12 plus 8? It's just like adding like one extra thing to keep you in the workout. Some people are gonna despise it, I'm sure, but I don't know. I just want something different to engage your body and your mind at the same time. And what I like about it is you don't know where you're going next until you get there.
When you started talking, I thought it was going to be something like, I think we've done this before too, but like where you do a stationary task and then do a task down to 4, do that other stationary task, and then do a different task back. But we've done that before.
We did something like that once, and it was very it confused me.
Yeah.
I think it was like the one week where we had like a pro from each location do one. I don't remember which one it was, but that was tough to like. I don't even really remember what. it was.
Yeah, I can't think of what it was, but I do remember like every time we were traveling, it was a task.
It was, yeah. I was thinking of something else, and I know what I wanted to bring up when we were kind of like off camera. I think it's February 18th. We're doing a circuit creation contest. So anybody who's, I mean, you've come up with several, I know that, but anybody who's like not a pro will have the option or ability to submit a progression that they would like to see kind of utilized in Syphus training. Now, there's a lot of ones that we've tried before, and we've kind of like pushed them back. We don't need actual tasks. You don't need to insert the task. All I really want to see is like the progression and then the logic, the steering thought behind it, because that's really the cool thing. It's like, hey, maybe you're blending a few different circuits together, and like your what was the one you came up with?
First of all, it was a play on a rebus, I believe was the word. So it was a mountain out of molehills.
Yes.
So it was molehills that then became mountains.
It was Mountillion, or was it? I gave it a name though.
Mountainous molehills, I think.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
Something like that. But so if you give us kind of like the reasoning behind it, or like what inspired the idea, that's really what kind of like drives with me. It's like really cool, and I'm like, oh yeah, I get where you're going with that. That's where Machiavelli came from, and so what we're gonna do is on that day, I think it's the 18th. We're going to feature like the 3 top ones, and you can submit those to Hackett@syphustraining.com, and then hopefully it gives us like 20 new circuits to throw in the mix and test out. And I mean that's kind of always pushing the envelope, trying to do something new. So all right, I mean I guess that's pretty much it for this week, and then next week we're going to try to get a guest in that's to be determined. And you guys have been watching the Form First podcast.